Welcome to video 3 of chapter 12. We now move to middle childhood and look at peer relations. And we can, it's really in middle childhood that you get more sophisticated friendships that start to form. Because whereas, the preschoolers had friends that were basically play partners. Their friends would be just the children that they would get together with to play together. But no real level of intimacy um, or revealing themselves or self disclosure, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But we get more of this in middle childhood now. The friendships are based more on trust. I mean, friends start to reveal things to each other, and so they rather than just playing together, they also share things with one another. Close individual friendships are really important for children's well-being. Um, Research shows that it's at least important for a child to have one close friend. It doesn't hurt to have more, but the real division is between those that have zero and those that have one or more. So like, somebody that has two or three or four close friends, I mean, they're not doing that much better than somebody with one close friend. But somebody that has one friend is a lot better off than somebody that has zero friends. So research shows it's really important to have at least one. Social status is something that is looked at in research, and they can go into an established group such as a classroom, that's been together for a while, and using a method called sociometry, they can figure out the level of peer acceptance or peer rejection for each child. And this method leads to 5 categories. The way they do it is let's say they go into a classroom and the class has been together for, maybe a half a year at this point. And this research is usually conducted in spring after class has been together since September. So the children have gotten to know each other over a long period. And they ask each child to provide a list of names of the children that they like the most and those that they like the least, among their classmates. And so they ask them to come up with a certain number. So maybe they might say, for instance, write down the 3 children you like the most and the 3 children that you like the least. And every child does this, and they collect the results, and they tally them up, and based on the number of positive versus negative votes you get. So like those that say that they like, if you're one of the ones that was liked the most, I'm calling that a positive vote. If you're on the like least list, then that's a negative vote. So if you look at this chart here, positive votes mean that you're higher in the chart. So we call that peer acceptance. So the higher you are, the more positive votes you receive. Going to the left means that you've received more negative votes. That you received, like you've been on a number of like least lists. And to the right would mean that you were on very few or none of those lists. So if we look at somebody like a category like the popular category, they're very low on the rejection list because they're to the right. So they got very few negative votes, but they got a lot of positive votes. A lot of people said that they liked them. So that would make them popular. A lot of people like them, very few dislike them. Similarly, if we go to the rejected category down in the lower left, they got a whole bunch of negative votes. So they're high on the rejection list, but they got very few people saying that they like them the best. So they're very low on the acceptance list. So we call them rejected children. I'll talk a little bit more about those two categories on the next slide. The controversial children are an interesting category because they get a lot of both types of votes. A lot of other children say that they like them. A lot of other children say that they dislike them. So controversial children are children that really stand out, you know, because the other children are noticing them. They're appearing on a lot of lists because they're high on both. And so it's kind of like that child that is like you either like them or you dislike them. They really stand out. Everyone notices them, and some people are drawn to them, and others are are reject feel or others reject them. Okay, anyways, so I would as an example, like it might be the openly gay child in the class or something like that. That like at least among older children or teens. I mean, like they would stand out. Some people really might be really drawn to them and really like the fact that they're very open and honest and other people oh no, I don't like somebody that's gay, and they put them on the rejection list. But they're standing out in a way. Or it could I also think like this doesn't really fit children, but I always think of like somebody like the Fawns, like somebody that wears a motorcycle jacket and like they're really kind of cool, but they rub some people the wrong way, but other people think that they're really cool, and so they put them on the like list, and so anyways, what you find is obviously they do stand out, and then if we go to the neglected category, that's kind of the opposite. They get on hardly any list. People don't dislike them. People don't put them on the like list. So these are children that keep to themselves. It's kind of like the loner that sits in the back, but they don't rub anyone the wrong way. They don't bother anyone, but they don't really make friendships either. And um, neither of these categories are considered bad. Whether if you're in the controversial category or the neglected category, they can both be at times that they may be a temporary category that the person's in. A neglected child might be new to a school, for instance, and they haven't really had time to form good friendships. Or the controversial child may not care what others think of them, and they have some people that really like them. So I don't know. I would say I would have been in the neglected category a number of years. I mean, I was the child that liked to read books and keep to myself. I just didn't like to interact a lot, and I don't think it was, I don't think I was unhealthy in any way. Um, and so this is what they find is that it's not a worrisome category to be neglected. So it shouldn't be seen as negative, even though neglected sounds a little negative. They just keep to themselves. The only reason it becomes negative is if it's a child that really wants more interaction or more, friendships, and because of shyness or social anxiety that they have trouble um, making friends, and that would be somewhat worrisome if they're not content to be on their own. But if they are, eh, basically the experts tell you not to worry about that child. Um, they may have like a close friendship outside of school, for instance. Okay, and then we have the average kids. I'm not really going to talk about them. They're just, they're average. They get an average number of positive votes, an average number of negative votes. They're right in the middle. They don't really get researched a lot, but we do research the popular kids. We want to know, what makes a child popular, um, and we also definitely put a lot of research into the rejection category, those that get a lot of negative votes. That is the category of concern, because those are the kids that if they're being rejected, and whether it's middle childhood or even in adolescence. I mean, like if they're rejected, during school years, I mean, they're probably going to feel rejected going into their adult years as well. And I mean, these are the ones, these are, I would say, the children we worry about, or the adolescents we worry about, that eventually um, may become aggressive, or may do, or may break laws, or show end up with conduct disorder, or be delinquents. I don't want to go as far as to say, like, school shooters or something, but most likely, you know, people that end up doing atrocious acts like that were probably rejected for many years in school. And anyways, let's talk briefly about the popular kids. They have two different categories: the popular pro-social and the popular anti-social children. The pro-social children are they're the good kids that they're really helpful with others. They're good in school. They're never aggressive. They always have a nice thing to say. They befriend others. I mean, like, everyone just kind of likes them because they're nice. They're nice kids. The popular antisocial children are children that some of their peers will admire, which is why they end up on the like list. So this is why it mentions athletic ability. I mean, they might be, you know, one of the stars on the football team, or other sports team, and so they're antisocial in the way that they're not really helpful, and um, really good at in social interactions with others, but because of their but they have a popularity because of their achievements often, whether it's in athletics or some other way. Um, okay, the rejected children. Once again, this is the category where we tend to be most concerned about, because we worry about their futures, and what they're going to grow up to be, because rejected children are the ones that will often end up being adults that get in trouble with the law and things like that. And we are particularly concerned about the rejected and aggressive children. So these are children that others don't like because they're bullies. They're bullies. They're aggressive. They're socially unskilled. They are annoying to others. They disrupt the classroom. Um, okay, and and so the stereotype is that they are bullies. The rejected and withdrawn children are socially withdrawn and anxious. So sometimes people end up in the rejected list because they're just really awkward. I mean, it may be the child that doesn't know the language well. Maybe they're an immigrant child, and they speak with an accent, and so the other children like don't like them because they consider them weird. Or it could be a disabled child even that ends up in this category, and people like reject them because of their disability. I mean, as sad as that sounds. Or it's a child, maybe they have a severe speech impediment, and so others find them annoying. And so these aren't child that are aggressive anyways, but because of their awkwardness, or the fact that they just really have poor social skills sometimes, they end up on the dislike list. Um, Obviously, I mean, we do worry about those children as well. I mean, hopefully there are things that can be done to help them, though, more easily. They can be helped typically more easily if you can fix some of their impediments, teach them social skills and things like that. They tend to be easier to be able to help, excuse me, than the aggressive children. So once again, the aggressive children, we are the ones that we worry about the most, because it's not going to go away on its own. When you're not liked in school, you don't all of a sudden come back the next year and, like, all of a sudden turn popular or something. I mean, like, if they don't get some kind of severe interaction to really help them learn better social skills or something, they will tend to go year after year feeling rejection from others. One interesting thing, though, is that rejection sensitivity plays into this. Not every child experiences peer rejection the same way. Because children differ in their sensitivity to rejection. So meaning that it really bothers some children that they're being rejected. Others, it doesn't bother at all. They're rejected, but they just, they don't. It doesn't seem to affect them. Um, so remember I talked about children with a hostile attribution bias in an earlier video. So they would tend to have a higher sensitivity um, to rejection. They remember someone with a hostile attribution bias that every time somebody talks to them or says something or some situation arises, they always kind of look at the negative side of things. They always feel like they're being rejected, even though somebody may just you know they say hi to them or be nice to them. They think, oh, they want something from me. That's why they're being nice. I mean, so they're constantly like interpreting things as rejection, even when they're not. So which means that they're highly sensitive to it. Okay, let's go on. Gender and play. So gender segregation really begins in the preschool years, boys playing with boys and girls playing with girls. But it certainly becomes stronger in middle childhood during the elementary school years. And this is especially true for boys. Um, Boys start reaching a point where they don't want girls in the group, and um, they they want to hang out in large groups of boys. Uh, what leads to gender segregation? Well, first of all, there's different play styles between boys and girls. Typically, boys like more rougher, competitive play that involves dominance. That they're trying to be like the leader or the winner of the group. I mean, um, girls tend to enjoy more self-disclosure in their peer groups and they like more agreement rather than competition. They like to, agree on things and come up with things that they all like, can all agree to. Whereas boys are continually being competitive against one another. They have different communication and response patterns. Some research showed that, they were analyzing the speech of middle childhood boy groups versus girl groups, and they found that boys use a lot more commands in their play groups. So okay, you do this now. Just kind of telling each other what to do, and then girls tend to use more suggestions. And like perhaps we could do this. And whereas the boy would say, okay, we're going to do this now. And so this can lead, because of the different communication styles, it wouldn't be pleasant necessarily for the boys or the girls to hang out in cross-gender groups. Another final kind of reason is what they're doing in the groups is that boys tend to like to congregate in larger groups, and this is because boys often like to do organized games or sporting events. I know growing up, we always wanted a certain number because we played road hockey all the time. Growing up in Canada, that was the thing you did. So, you need enough for two teams, and so um, our groups tend to be larger, our play groups. Whereas girls often will gather in pairs or very small groups. Once again, because remember they're centered more around self-disclosure and and talking about things, and that works better in a smaller group. So there's different group sizes, different communication patterns, different play styles, and this leads to the segregation that we see strengthening in middle childhood. Okay. And finally, in this section, the importance of recess. Um, so in recent years, many schools have eliminated or decreased the amount of time allotted to recess. Um, Research recess has been described as an essential part of a child's day, critical in promoting social, emotional, physical, and cognitive development. So, for example, just as an example, research on play and academic development or academic achievement, I should say, in schools has found that children become less attentive to their schoolwork the longer they go without a break. And that's not surprising. I mean, it gets probably it might be the same for you. The longer that you're going, without a break, studying or in a lecture. I mean, it everyone needs a break at some point, and it's especially true for children. And so, by simply eliminating recess and in the hopes of having more academic or teaching time, it may actually backfire. And this is what researchers are finding, that because their attention is dwindling, they're not really learning, that extra time during that extra time you've taken away from a recess. Children need to recharge their batteries at times and just, get away from the academics and go let off some steam and run around a little bit and be ready then again to open their minds up to learning. Um, everything I'll just tell you, all the research I've seen on recess shows the importance of it, and that there are many educators and researchers believing we're really going in the wrong direction when we eliminate recess from school situations. Okay, and that will finish part 3 of chapter 12.